This painting is a masterpiece of the Italian Renaissance, but it's also a mystery that has puzzled viewers for centuries. It depicts a scene from classical mythology, but with a twist that no one can fully explain or even understand. It mixes pagan and Christian symbols, nature and art, beauty and mystery. It's a painting that invites us to look closer and deeper, to appreciate its beauty and complexity, and to form our own interpretations and opinions. This famous artwork is none other than Primavera by Botticelli. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you all about it. But before we get into the details of the painting, let's talk about the artist himself. Sandro was an Italian painter of the earlier Renaissance, who is best known for his paintings of mythology and religious subjects. He was born in Florence around 1445, an apprentice of the painter known as Filippo, who taught him the techniques of panel painting and fresco. He was also influenced by the sculptural style of two very well-known artists, one by the name of Antonio and one by the name of Andrea, who gave him a sense of form and anatomy. Sandro was patronized by the powerful Medici family, who commissioned him to paint many works for their palaces and chapels. He also painted portraits of some of the most prominent figures of his time, such as Lorenzo the Magnificent and others as well. One of his most famous paintings is Primavera, which means spring in Italian. Sandro made this masterpiece in the late 1470s or early 1480s, and it depicts a group of figures from classical mythology in a lush garden. But no one knows for sure what the painting really means or who commissioned it. It has been described as one of the most written about and most controversial paintings in the world. Some people actually believe that it was commissioned by Lorenzo the Magnificent's cousin for his wedding in 1482, while others think that it was a gift from Lorenzo the Magnificent to his brother, who was in love with a beautiful girl, a beautiful noblewoman who died young. Some scholars also suggest that it has a deeper philosophical meaning related to Neoplatonism. Sandro was inspired by the revival of Greek and Roman culture in Florence at the time, which was fostered by the Medici and their circle of humanist scholars and poets. He was one of the first Western artists to depict non-religious subjects for pleasure rather than for religious purposes. He also drew inspiration from various amounts of literary sources. However, he also added his own creativity and artistic intelligence to create a unique and original work of art. He aimed to achieve the ideal of beauty in his paintings, and he used graceful lines and elegant poses to create a sense of rhythm and movement. There also seems to be a sense of harmony in the artwork, as no harsh or bright colors that stand out. The painting is currently displayed in a gallery in Florence, Italy, where it attracts millions of visitors every year. But what makes this painting so intriguing and mysterious? Let's find out. First, let's take a look at the composition of the painting. The painting features 6 female figures and 2 male, along with a cupid in an orange groove. The movement of the composition is from right to left, so following that direction, we can identify the figures as follows. At the very far right, we can see the god of the west wind, who is kidnapping and possessing a nymph, who later marries and transforms into Flora, the goddess of flowers and spring. The transformation is indicated by the flowers coming out of the nymph's mouth. Next to them, we see Flora herself, the transformed version of the nymph. Becoming a goddess from a nymph, she is dressed in a floral pattern and scattering roses on the ground. She embodies the endless cycle of life and nature, with flowers adorning her garments and hair, almost becoming one with them. In the center, but also slightly set back from the other figures, stands Venus, the god of love and beauty and fertility. She is surrounded by an arc of trees that look as if she has wings around her head, similar to how religious paintings depict the Virgin Mary, almost making her look like an angel herself. Just like Flora, she has a knowing look in her eyes. Venus meets our gaze, as if she has a secret that we are not privy to. Above her, we can also see the sun Cupid, the god of erotic love, who flies blindfolded and aims his arrow at the next groups of figures. The 3 female figures that we see next to Venus are the 3 Graces, who represent beauty, joy, and abundance. They are dancing in a circle and holding hands, wearing transparent silk dresses that revel their feminine forms. And finally, on the far left, we see Mercury, the messenger of the gods and the protector of gardens. He is dressed in red and wears a helmet and winged sandals. He holds a staff with intertwined snakes, which he uses to disperse and keep at bay the clouds above him. The figures in the painting are wearing clothes that resemble those of Florence in the same period, but they are more like costumes that Lorenzo created for public celebrations and competitions. The painting does not have a clear story, which may be related to the culture of shows and living pictures that were common in Gothic art. Another interesting detail about this painting is that it's set in a rich and luscious landscape. Other than the trees, it's quite hard to figure out the larger location. However, amidst the trees, we can see a blue background, denoting the sky and hints of land to the left and right in the middle ground of the composition. And if you pay attention to the ground, you'll notice that there are a variety of flowers there. It is reported that the artwork contains over 500 different plant species and 190 different flowers. Pretty impressive, isn't it? And it's also interesting to note that the oranges on the trees are a symbol to the Medici family, who were the most powerful patrons of art and culture in Florence at the time. But the question remains, what does this painting exactly mean, and why was it considered so controversial? What was the message or story Sandro is actually trying to convey? Well, there are many different interpretations and opinions on that matter, but at the end of the day, most agree that it's an allegory based on the luscious growth of spring and the awakening of love. However, some also suggest that it has a deeper layers of meaning related to Renaissance Neoplatonism, which is a philosophical movement that blended pagan and Christian ideas about beauty, love, and harmony. According to this view, Sandro was influenced by his friend, who was leading a Neoplatonic thinker and translator of ancient texts. He believed that human beings can achieve spiritual enlightenment by contemplating beauty in nature and art. He also wrote about how love can unite different levels of reality, from earthly to heavenly, from human to divine. The Neoplatonic philosophers viewed Venus as ruling over both earthly and divine love, and argued that she was the classical equivalent of the Virgin Mary. This is also alluded by the way that she is framed in an altar-light setting that is similar to contemporary images of the Virgin Mary. Even Venus's welcoming hand gesture is the same as Mary's when she receives the visit from the Archangel Gabriel or the Annunciation in the paintings of that scene from the same period. Some scholars have tried to find connections between Primavera and various literary sources from classical antiquity or from Renaissance poetry. For example, as I mentioned before, some have pointed out that Sandro may have drawn an inspiration from Ovid's Metamorphosis, which tells stories about transformations in nature and mythology. Others have suggested that he may have alluded to other arts, which explains the natural phenomenon and the origin of life from a materialistic perspective. Still, others have proposed that he may have referred to a poem by Angelo, who is a poet and tutor of Medici children. He wrote a poem that basically celebrates the love of Medici for a beautiful noblewoman who died young. In the poem, he describes how Venus and the Graces appear in a garden to bless the lovers. However, none of these sources provide a clear and coherent explanation for the painting as a whole, but then again, the mysterious nature of the painting adds to its greatness and makes it very intriguing. Primavera is a painting that invites us to look closer and deeper, to appreciate its beauty and mystery, and to form our own interpretations and opinions. It is a painting that challenges us to think and feel, allowing us to marvel at and admire the beauty around us. It is a painting that has captivated generations of viewers and inspired countless artists and writers. Needless to say, it is a work of art that is truly one of a kind. Click on any of the two videos on the screen right now for more content.